Here's the entire Warhammer 40,000 roster, S to F, ranked from real tournament data, nearly 5,000 games, across the 11th edition so far. This isn't one person's hot take, and it isn't based on how the models feel to play. Every tier is earned from results, and every single faction shows its work on screen, the composite score and the exact rank behind the letter. We're going to build the board top to bottom, and for every faction I'll tell you the win rate, the shape of its game, and exactly why it sits where it does. Grab a drink. This is the whole meta in one video. This is the Infinite Archive, the tier list measured. First, how the tiering actually works, because it's the whole point. The Archive's Strength Index scores every faction on 4 facets of tournament results. Win rate, how often it wins. Top cut conversion, how often it reaches the top tables, which is a different question. Blowout margin, whether it wins and loses by a little or a lot. And consistency, whether its results are steady or swingy. Those 4 get blended into a single Z-score across the roster, so plus means above the field and minus means below. The site itself keeps that score to 3 honest bands, because collapsing it to a single letter hides real uncertainty. For this video, I'm mapping the exact same score onto S through F letters. So the letters are mine, but the number underneath every faction is real, and I'm showing it the whole way. One hard rule: a faction needs at least 30 games to be tiered at all. That's why Imperial Agents, 64%, the loudest number on the board, sit out entirely. 20 games, real but unproven. The honest floor cuts both ways. There's the board, 2 factions in S, 3 in A, a crowded 8 deep B in the middle, then C, D, and a rough F tier at the floor. And here's the healthy headline before we even start. Almost the entire roster is playable. The gap top to bottom is real, but most of it lives between 45 and 53%. This is a close addition. Now let's go tier by tier, faction by faction. S tier, and it's just 2. The outliers the whole field is chasing. Thousand Suns are the clear number 1, plus 1.6, 60% win rate over 234 games. Their facet card is brutal. Elite on win rate, elite on top cut, elite on blowout. They win, they convert to the top tables, and they win by a lot. The only soft spot is consistency, because they're feast or famine. The engine is Rubric Marines. In 93% of lists, plus the Sekitar robot package run as a paired second detachment, a combination winning 71% of the time it's fielded. Orcs are number 2 at plus 1.3, 59%. The same high win rate, high blowout shape, built on the Green Tide detachment at 66% and a foot horde of boys that swing games by 20 plus points. Both of these clear on more than one facet, so neither is a 1 week spike. If you want to know what the next balanced slate is looking at, it starts right here. A tier is strong but not broken. Emperor's Children plus 0.97, 57.5%, and the highest variance army on the whole board. Consistency deep in the red. It's explosive Slaanesh melee, and it's anchored by the Defiler, a 310-point vehicle that shows up in nearly 90% of their lists. Grey Knights are the fascinating one, only 54% raw win rate, but the single best top cut conversion in the entire game, plus 1.8. They lose fair games and then win the tables that actually decide events, on a Nemesis Dread Knight and Purifier Elite Core. And Chaos Demons at 54 rounded out, the broad, consistent option, positive on every facet, no single carry, just a stable of greater demons and a book where everything works a little. All 3 are genuinely strong, they're just not the outliers sitting above them. B tier is the crowded middle, 8 factions, most of the roster, all packed within a hair of even, and the most interesting tier to read because the composite really earns its keep here. Adeptus Custodes lead it, and they're the perfect example of why this isn't just win rate. 47% under 50, but elite top cut and blowout push them up. A low model count army of Custodian Guard and Alaris Terminators that punches above its record. Tyranids sit dead steady at 50 on a massive 380 game sample, leading on cheap Biovores and the Neurolictor. Leagues of Votann are right at even, and almost every list runs the Hecaton Land Fortress and a swarm of Hernkin Pioneers. Adeptus Sororitas are the consistency queens of the tier, plus 1.2 there, built around Morven Val and Paragon Warsuits, steady week to week. Necrons have the best raw win rate of the group at 53.5, but flat top cut and blowout keep them mid rather than high. Black Templars are even on a thinner 85 game sample, carried by top cut conversion. Space Marines are the literal baseline of the game, dead average on the biggest sample there is, playing Intercessors and Scouts exactly what the reference faction should be. and tow roundout B at 52%, a top cut leaning gunline of stealth battlesuits and pathfinders. None of these are broken, none are traps. This is the healthy heart of the meta, and any of them can win an event in the right hands. C tier is just under the middle, playable but a step short. Dark Angels are a strange one to start with, an exactly even 50% win rate and the highest consistency in this whole group, plus 1.4, but weak win rate and blowout facets drag the composite down. An Azrael and Deathwing Knights list that is rock steady and just doesn't push games. Chaos Space Marines are middle of the pack across the board, a cheap Cultist and Chosen book with no standout facet in either direction. Drukhari dropped to 46%, and here the win rate itself is the problem, even though nearly every list runs the Archon and a unit of Incubi, and Imperial Knights are the exact mirror of Custodes from a minute ago. An even 50% win rate, but the worst consistency down here, and soft top cut, all of it resting on a single Knight Castellan at 425 points. When it works, it works. When it doesn't, the game's over. 4 solid books that just miss the middle. D tier is where it starts to genuinely hurt. Adeptus Mechanicus, 47% with the worst top cut conversion in this group. A Belisarius call anchored gunline that grinds but almost never converts to a top table. Blood Angels and Space Wolves are the interesting pair, both near even on raw win rate, around 49, but everything else is soft, so it's the facets, not the record, that put them here. Space Wolves in particular go all in on Logan Grimner, and a brick of Wolfguard Terminators and still can't crack the top cut. Genestealer cults sit lower and thinner at 42.5%, and here's a wild one. They're statistically the most consistent army in the entire game, right now, plus 2.5 on consistency. They just very consistently come up short. And Death Guard grind at 46 on a Death Shroud Terminator heavy list. Durable as ever, but grinding their way to losses in this meta. These are the 5 books actively asking for help. And F tier, the floor. Deathwatch are the oddity here, so let's be fair to them. A 50%-ish win rate, but on only 43 games and with the weakest facet card in the tier, so the composite is harsh. Take that placement with a grain of salt. The other 4 are genuinely struggling. Astra Militarum, 38%. An army that doesn't just lose, it gets tabled, posting minus 20 victory point blowouts, whole detachments folding. Eldari at 40, and their profile is unique and instructive. They almost never get blown out. Their consistency is actually positive. They just lose steadily, a reliable step short every single game. That points at an efficiency problem, not bad luck. World Eaters, also 40%, where the Khorne melee core the faction is literally named for, the Exalted 8-bound, actually correlate with losing by 20 plus points. The army only climbs when it leans on its vehicles instead of its berserkers. And dead last, Chaos Knights, 36%. The big centerpiece Knights don't earn their points, and nothing in the entire book clears a 42% win rate. If the next slate hands out buffs, this right here is the front of the queue. So how much of this board should you actually bank on? The 2 ends are solid. The S tier pair and the F tier strugglers hold across the whole edition. Not just one weekend. Those placements are earned, and the healthy headline holds too. Nearly the entire roster is playable, most of it packed between 45 and 53%, so if your faction is mid-table, you can absolutely win with it. Where I'd hold back is the middle. The B and C factions are separated by tenths of a point, and they genuinely swap places week to week. Don't tattoo those ranks on. And keep the thin ones in mind. Deathwatch on 43 games, Black Templars on 85, and Imperial Agents held out completely at 20. Most of all, remember the letters are my presentation for this video. The honest version is the 3-band strength index on the site, and it reshuffles every single week as new events land, and it lets you move the 4 weights yourself and watch the whole board re-rank around what you care about. Go argue with it. Data is infinite. Understanding it is divine. The live tier list, set your own weights, is at infinitearchive.org. We'll see you next week.